Hello everyone, welcome to some solutions and working out of the digital solutions. At the moment for this video, we are just going to focus on the multiple choice questions and we will gonna look at the essays in the near future. So let's have a look. So question one, which element of visual communications, if not used appropriately, could raise accessibility of a digital system? I am not sure about this one. It's talking about accessibility, so I think it's more like visual communication, so it's more like the UX. So from this one, my best guess will be the shape. So if you don't properly organize and put the shape in the right position in the system, then it's probably gonna impact the accessibility, meaning that people can really use the UX. But this one here, you need to go back to the book and see what's the right answer. So I don't have any answer on this one. The second one. So I'm thinking about this one here is that I think the key question here is the use of data personally impact the customer. So how does it impact the customer? And if I'm reading the question, so it's about recognizing the customer and then sending them the appropriate messages based on their consent, like based on what they want to learn. So using this, I would be more inclined to choose the more personalized shopping experience. Yes, it can be an invasion of privacy, but they actually subscribe to it and they actually say, yeah, I want you to read my face and I want you to send me details. Increase data accuracy. Yep, that's probably right, but I don't think that's more about data because we are already have the data. So not really. Improve store inventory management, definitely that's not it because it's not gonna impact the inventory at all. So that's my answer for question two. So question three, how could the developer refine the following algorithm to improve maintainability? So my keyword for this question is the maintainability, which means that it's not for now, but it's something for the future. Which means option A is out of the question because that one is more about error checking functions. That one is more on the reliability and accuracy, making sure the user input is correct. Write code comments is the one that I am inclined to choose because if I put comments on all the line, then that will help me if I come back to this code then in a few years from now, I am able to know what's happening in there. Another options that you probably can have is option C, which is rename variables in NX to be more descriptive. Now, thinking about this in more detail, I do believe option C will be a better answer. So let me just adjust the slide. So I've adjusted the slide and I changed my thinking. I think this one here, option C, will be the right answer. That is to rename the variables n, x, and result to be more descriptive. The reason for that is because the code on the very top, it's already have enough description on what this block of code has done. It's basically say calculate the average value of input array. So what we can do is that if we rename the n, x, and sum and result, we should be able to understand the code better in the future. And of course, option D is out of the question. Incorporate a function from the code library to sum the array. This one here is very interesting. So what does this performs? What is the output? So for me to work this out, focus on the output first. So in here, we are outputting X. So if you can see here, pen. So X is here. And then what we need to do is that we need to trace where X is being used. So in here, this is where X is currently being used. And also here, X is currently being used. So this one here will be a little bit of a tricky question, but what you need to do is that you need to break it down and follow through the code. So if I follow through the code in the beginning, the I will be null because it doesn't exist yet because we are still on row one and X is currently set into 0. And then as we iterate, so I will start from 1. So whenever I is 1, the if condition here will basically mark as number 1 is actually true. So we will add x equals x plus I, meaning that I is 1, I is 1, x is 0. So 0 plus 1 equals to 1. Then we go to the next loop. When I is 2, it is a prime number. So we add 2 into 1. So that's how we end up into 3. 3 is prime. So we add then 3 to 3 equals 6. 4 is not prime. So that means we are not going to do the adding operation. So that's why this is remain to be 6. 5 is prime, so we'll add 5 to 6, that becomes 11. 6 is not prime, so it stays 11. 7 is prime, so we add 11 to 7, that equals 18, and 8 and 9 is not prime. So if you follow through the code, you will actually get an idea of what this code is actually doing. So that means this one here is not right because it's not designed to check. Yes, there is a trap in here because your if condition on row 3 is checking whether the number is prime or not, but that's not the purpose of the code. Then, of course, that's gonna be an interesting thing here. I do have B and D. So C is definitely out of the question because we are not printing the prime numbers, but we are adding them. So this is now going to be a confusing one because B basically means that we are summing the first 100 prime numbers, and D, we sum the prime numbers between 1 to 100. Now, if you're looking at what we're adding here, is that we are actually not, um, we are actually not adding the first 100 prime numbers. We are actually adding the prime numbers between 1 and 100, including 100 because we have the 2 here to 100. So if that's the case, then I will be more inclined to choose D. So to answer the question for this one, this is going to be, the answer will be D. We are summing the prime numbers between 1 to 100, including the number 100, which is not a prime number. Question 5. So this one here is very interesting. This one here, you will need to use imagination. So this is if you are going to a petrol station and then you have like a touch screen to select which fuel you want, and you have to imagine that you are using your finger, which is quite big, to touch the screen. So which UI, which UX will be a best option to do the touch screen? Well, it's a no-brainer that the A will be the right answer because A allows you to easily choose which field. The B is very tiny up and down arrow, including the C. And then the D, you will have a very frustrating time trying to choose the checkboxes as well. So that is why A is the best answer for this one. So question 6, this is what we call about the denial of service, so DDoS attack. So what is the denial of service itself? So the denial of service itself is the hacker use when the hacker use a lot of where am I? When the hacker use a lot of infected computers. So when your computer got a virus, it's not necessarily they need to access and try to steal your personal information because you probably won't have any in your computer. But when your computer got hacked, what they do is they install what they call robots or bots. And if they impacted millions of computer in here, what they can do is that with a single stroke of command, they can tell the bots to actually make fake requests to the server. Now, when the robots do it, and you have a million of people, million of random computers sending requests to the server doesn't really know which one is a genuine request and which one is a fake request from robots. So as a result, when someone tries to request something properly from the server will say, nope, I'm too busy to help you. because I'm still working on this million requests that comes through from the robots. Now, with that, that means that it will impact the availability of the server. Now, you actually will see this a lot, especially when you do the Cyber Monday, um, which is the online sale frenzy. So it's not so much the server is being hacked, but it's gonna be a lot of people trying to buy something. Or if you go into the ticket text as well, when they have like Taylor Swift or another big names doing a concert, and then they open up the gate to start selling the tickets, you will see that sometimes that will take, when you try to buy a ticket, which is normally when it's empty, it takes you 1 minute to complete the transactions. But when it's a very popular event, that probably will take you about a good half an hour to actually get a ticket. And sometimes as well, you probably won't be able to get the ticket. So how to prevent the denial of service attack is that some of the service provider like the ticket tech, they provide an online queue, which then allows them to control who is coming and connecting to their server so that they can service everyone in the timely manner. Strangely enough, online system still also you still have to queue up as well. So that is the denial of service attack. Question 7. Video content transmitted to real-time issue has reduced load times and maintained quality. So I'm not quite sure what it is, but I am definitely sure D is not the answer and C is not the answer. File transfer protocol is the one designed to send file between people. Broadcasting is about um, broadcasting is about TV channels and so I am torn between A and B. So I am not quite sure what's the right answer for me. But the way that I see it is that if we want to reduce the load time and maintain quality, we have to deal with the size of the data that we send it. So that's why I don't choose A, I actually choose B, compression. The thinking behind it is that if you are on the Netflix on the mobile device and then you want to watch a movie on the full HD, if Netflix send you the entire movie, it will take about 8 gigabytes. So that's gonna be challenging. So what Netflix will do is that they will compress the movie without actually losing the quality, or just lose the quality a little bit, but it's not really noticeable on your mobile device. You have to imagine your mobile device is very small. If you lose one or two fixed pixels, it's not gonna be that big deal. And sometimes they also allows you to choose the different standards, different compression standard. Like for example, if you're on your mobile device, even 360 pixels will be good enough. You don't actually need a full HD definition on the video. By doing this, a full HD movie, to make it look good inside the mobile device, you are able to reduce the file size from 8 gigabytes to 2 gigabytes and even 1 gigabytes. So that process is what we're gonna call compression. So we are compressing the file, reducing the file size so that we can stream it through the server, through the internet, stream it faster, and then when it arrives on the mobile device, then your mobile device will decompress the file and then they can still show the high quality as well. A good example of compression is that if you have a sequence of color, for example, red, 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 red of 10 times, instead of sending 10 codes of red, you actually gonna send it number 10 and then red. So that is a compression. So instead of having 10 slots with the color red, you have one slot with color red and another slot with the number of how many times you need to repeat them. So that allows you to really reduce the size and make it faster to transfer. Question 8, we only focus on question number 2. Question number 2 is very simple, and all I will do is just follow the answer. So assign a string. Well, this is not a string, so that's definitely not the right answer. Assign a dictionary object to variable x. That is making sense because this is an object and we're assigning to variable x. So this is currently what I am thinking, maybe the right one. Convert the text object, definitely not, because it's saying text object, so we probably not. And then it's actually changing conversion to a dictionary object, while the keyword here is the to. So it's actually setting something to X. So definitely not the C and D as well. And because C and D is not the right answer, so I'm happy to focus on the B, assign a dictionary object to variable X. Question 9. This is the timetabling. Okay. So you have to use your imagination again in here because timetabling, imagine your own timetabling. So this is what I'm sort of thinking on the timetabling is that I will have a timetabling, and if I logged into the system, it will know my name as well. And then it will just highlight, okay, what's my timetable for the week? What is my subjects? And more importantly, probably like who's the teacher. So generally, what we will need in here is that definitely we need to know which student, we definitely need to know the subject. Teachers is optional because depending on the school, but I'm still happy with the teacher. The one that we have in here is that probably not necessary is the initial iteration assessment, because assessment you will have assessment calendar rather than student timetable. So that's how we end up with the answer assessment. Right, data flow, my favorite subject. So this is where it gets fun. Right. So you don't really need to understand the data flow completely, but what you understand is the question. So it's asking data flow one. So data flow one comes out from the user database here. So it goes back and then it goes to the create user here. So we need to understand, okay, cool. So this is the data that come out from the database. So then my question here is what data actually comes into the database? And then if you look at here, this is the data that comes into the database. Now, generally, 99% of the time, data that comes into the database, it should be equal with the data that comes out from the database. The reason why? It's because database purposes is storing information. So that's why the info that's going in into the database should be the same info that's going out of the database. If you have a different info coming out from the database, that means you have a process in between that transform or change the data. With that in mind, we automatically wipe out option C and D because it's not right. Next, we're going to look at the next question, so data flow. Now, this is going to be a very interesting one because data flow 2 on both sides, it's not being described to us what it is. But don't be scared because data flow through will be exactly the same thing. And we can technically cheat by looking at the option here because the option only have encrypt and decrypted. But if you're looking at the process here about encrypt and decrypt, then we can understand. So if you look at the flow from process number one sending the username details, and what we're doing here is that this process do an encryption or decryption and we go to the database. Generally, when you're storing something in the database, you want it to be stored encrypted, so you want to store it very securely. So that means we are sending after the username is being received, we are then sending in, we then encrypt it, we send it to the database, and then if we retrieve it, if so we send it to the database, and then if we retrieve it from the database, it's still the same data, so it will be an encrypted username. So that's why for this one, we will choose that one. So you start to see where it flows. And then what you have in here, username going in. So then this one here can be username as well for the data flow number 3, or data flow number 3 will be the decrypted username. With that in mind, we can then select um, question A, option A for the information that flows. I hope that has been very helpful to you all on how to deal with this question, and especially the thinking process in trying to understand and answer the question. So hopefully this will be helpful. Good luck for your exam.